So, have you ever stopped to wonder how one of the oldest, most powerful institutions on Earth actually chooses its leader? It's a process that's totally wrapped in secrecy, full of ancient rituals, and you might be surprised to hear it was born out of complete and utter chaos. So, let's go ahead and unlock the secrets of the Papal Conclave. For pretty much everyone watching around the globe, this is the only part of the process we ever see, a simple puff of smoke rising over the Vatican. But here's the thing. That famous signal, it isn't the start of the story, it's the very end. To really understand how we get to this point, we need to go back and figure out what in the world happens behind those locked doors. You know, the biggest secret is actually hiding in plain sight. It's right there in the name. Conclave comes from the Latin cum clave, which literally translates to with a key. And that tells you the single most critical feature of this whole thing: total, absolute seclusion. The cardinals are literally locked in. So the big question is, why? Well, this system wasn't invented for pomp and circumstance. Not at all. It was forged in a crisis. The conclave we see today isn't some ancient tradition that was just handed down through the ages. Nope, it was a desperate, very practical solution to a massive political problem. Okay, so picture this. The year is 1268. Pope Clement IV has died, and the cardinals gather in the Italian city of Viterbo to pick his successor. The problem is, they are hopelessly divided by politics. They just cannot agree. Days turn into weeks, and weeks, well, they just drag on into months. The people of the Turbo were, to put it mildly, fed up. I mean, after more than a year with no pope, the city officials decided to take matters into their own hands. First, they locked the cardinals inside the palace. When that didn't work, they cut their food down to just bread and water. And when even that failed, they did something truly drastic. They tore the roof right off the palace, leaving the cardinals exposed to the wind and the rain. And guess what? It finally worked. After nearly 3 years, a new pope was chosen. So, the newly elected Pope, Gregory X, had lived through all this chaos, and he was determined that it would never, ever happen again. So he created 2 foundational rules based directly on what happened in Viterbo. Rule number 1, strict seclusion. Lock them in cum clave. And rule number 2, a new pope must be elected by a 2/3 supermajority to make sure there's a real consensus. And this is just a brilliant example of how a crisis can forge a lasting solution. That 2/3 majority rule, which was cemented right after the Viterbo deadlock, remains unbreakable to this day. It's specifically designed to force the cardinals to look beyond their own political groups and find a candidate that almost everyone can rally behind. Okay, so we know why they turned the key. But in our age of smartphones and satellites and social media, how on earth do you enforce that kind of secrecy today? Let's take a look at how this ancient practice has adapted to the modern world. The process today is this really fascinating mix of old and new. The cardinals stay in a pretty modern guest house, but the voting itself still happens in the historic Sistine Chapel. Before they even step foot inside, the chapel is meticulously swept for any hidden microphones or bugs. They even use electronic signal jammers to create a total communications blackout. But the most powerful deterrent? It's ancient. It's a solemn oath of secrecy that is taken by every single person involved, and the penalty for breaking it? Automatic excommunication. This is the moment it all gets real. After the cardinals file into the Sistine Chapel and take their oaths, the master of ceremonies gives one single command: extra omnes. It means everybody out. All the non-cardinals, the staff, the assistants, the guards, they all leave. The great doors are then shut and locked from both the inside and the outside. The conclave has officially begun. So, what actually happens inside that locked chapel? Well, the voting process, which is called a scrutiny, is way more than just marking a box on a piece of paper. It's a deeply solemn ritual, and it's designed from top to bottom to ensure fairness, accuracy, and spiritual focus. The voting follows this meticulous 4-step process. First, each cardinal secretly writes a single name on a ballot that says, "I elect as Supreme Pontiff." Then, one by one, they walk to the altar, hold their folded ballot high so everyone can see, and they swear an oath, calling Christ as their witness. Then they place the ballot into a large chalice. And finally, the votes are counted and verified by 3 separate sets of officials. There is absolutely no room for error. Okay, so after all that secrecy and all that ritual, how does the waiting world finally get the news? The answer doesn't come in a tweet or a press release, it comes through powerful, ancient symbols. This is, of course, probably the most famous signal in the entire world. After each round of voting, the ballots are burned in a special stove. If no candidate has reached that two-thirds majority, special chemicals are added to make the smoke black. That's fumata nera. The wait continues. But if a pope has been elected and he has accepted the office, the smoke is white, fumata bianca. It's a simple, brilliant system that is understood everywhere on the planet. But here's a great little piece of trivia for you. In the past, the smoke was often this confusing grayish color. So today, to guarantee a clear signal, they use modern chemistry. Special chemical cartridges are added to the stove right along with the ballots. A specific mix of chemicals creates that dense black smoke. And a different combination, which actually includes lactose, yep, a type of sugar, is used to create the clean white smoke. It's basically 21st century pyrotechnics serving a centuries-old tradition. Shortly after that white smoke appears, the senior cardinal deacon steps out onto the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, and he proclaims those famous words to the cheering crowds, Habemus Papam, we have a pope. He then introduces the new pope to the world, revealing both his birth name and the new name he has chosen to lead the church. But before that grand announcement, there's a quiet, incredibly personal moment. The newly elected pope is led to a small chamber right next to the Sistine Chapel. It's known as the Room of Tears. And it gets its name because it's here, as he changes into the white papal robes for the very first time, that the enormous weight of his new job often sinks in, and many are just overcome with emotion. It's this powerful, humanizing glimpse into the burden he's just accepted. Finally, dressed in white, the new pope emerges onto the balcony. His very first official act is to deliver the Urbi et Orbi blessing, which is a blessing to the city of Rome and to the world. And with that, the long, secret process is over. The Catholic Church has its new leader. And so you're left with this really remarkable paradox. The conclave is a medieval process built on locked doors and sworn secrets that somehow still functions in our modern world of total transparency and instant communication. It's a system that was forged in chaos, yet it remains one of the most unique and enduring election processes on Earth.